there's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bod Father.
Man, this stuff rocks.
Hey, this is Dan Lorenzo from the band Vessel of Light, and you're listening to my buddy John on BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bod Father. And as always, I bring you guys awesome interviews. Today it's an honor and a privilege to have Dan Lorenzo, guitarist of Vessel of Light, and formerly of the Cursed with Overkill's Bobby Blitz. Vessel of Light is working on their fourth album, and it may be released this year, but we'll talk about that and see what's going on. And also, Vessel of Light have released their cover of Black Sabbath's Wasp. If you've not heard their cover, you best get your ass on to listen to it because it's pretty damn good. And I'm not saying that because Dan's on here. I'm a huge Black Sabbath fan. Anybody that could cover their music and make it sound good and give it justice, they've done a really good job. So, Dan, congratulations on that, my friend, first and foremost.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm glad you like it.
So let's jump right into this, man. How much is finished on the new album? I seen where vocals have been completed a couple months back. So what's going on with it so far right now?
Well, no. So we put out Thy Serpent Rise, which was our third album, back in early October of last year. And I live in New Jersey, and my singer Nathan Opposition lives in Cleveland. He flew out here for a few shows the beginning of March before everybody got, the coronavirus and everybody had to stay home. But I've already finished recording the guitars to 14 new songs for the next record. And Ron Lipnicki, who was also in Overkill, he was a drummer for Overkill for 10 years. He finished drums for 5 songs. So Nathan is moving along quickly with the vocals and melodies, but he has yet to start recording them yet. Wasp was basically finished right after we finished the Vessel of Light album, Thy Serpent Rise.
So what's impressed or excited you the most about making this new album, working on it so far? Is there anything that sticks out about it the most for you, possibly?
First of all, Nathan and I only met like 3 years ago, I think. 3 years ago, it'll be next month. So it's impressive to me that we've basically written 46 songs together. And the fourth album by Vessel of Light, I think it's going to be a little different than the first 3, which is a good thing, but it still sounds like Vessel of Light. It's not too far different, but Jimmy Shulman's coming up with some really creative bass lines, and Ron Lipnicki already laid down some ridiculously good drums. So because it's not finished yet, I don't know where it's going to go exactly, but I'm always excited about my newest songs. The newest songs is always what makes everything the most exciting for me. No matter how many songs you write, no matter how many records you put out, the new stuff is always what's most exciting to an artist.
Any tracks standing out more to you than any right now on this album that you guys are working on so far?
Not really, because the vocals aren't finished yet. So we're still promoting Thy Serpent Rise, which, I just said the single Meat and Bone was the single in video, and Wasp was the new single in video. So, because the album's not fully finished yet, I can't really envision what it's going to feel like and sound like exactly, John?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys were in negotiations with 3 labels for distribution. Are you guys still in talks or still standstill right now?
Yeah. I thought because of the coronavirus, everything would maybe go away, but we released the first 2 albums on Italy's Argonauta Records, and then we released Thy Serpent Rise independently because Argonauta wasn't going to be able to release it until March, and I had handed it in. I was ready to go by like September, so we did a self-release, and now we have a label from Latvia, a label from 2 American labels we're negotiating with, so whoever ends up giving us the best deal is who we'll end up going with, but it's pretty cool that even with, everything that's horrible going on in the world, there's still 3 labels that want to manufacture vinyl and CDs for us and give us a little bit of support as well.
So writing these new songs, does it still challenge you guys or push you still to come up with something new and fresh with your music? Does it push you guys out of that box, possibly?
I find it's getting easier as I go along. So I met Nathan Opposition about 3 years ago. I drove out to Cleveland for the first time, And then a month later, I drove out and we had written and recorded the first album. And basically, most of that, the EP, the Vessel of Light debut, that was like kind of older riffs I had laying around because I hadn't really done anything since I jammed with Blitz and we did the Cursed record, you know? That was back in 2007. So I had a bunch of riffs laying around. But then when we put out Vessel of Light Woodshed, I was starting to write a bunch of new songs, being really inspired by Nathan. So then Thy Serpent Rise followed quickly after. And now, like I said, I have 16 songs, guitar parts finished for the fourth Vessel of Light album. So to me, it just keeps getting easier, in all honesty.
This new album that you guys are working on, who is possibly going to produce this? Is this something that you guys are going to do independently, or, I mean, as far as producing wise, or what's going on with that possibly?
The guy who engineered the song, the Black Sabbath cover, Wasp, and also Thy Serpent Rise, he is still the recording engineer. So the record is pretty much produced by John J. Rod up in New York, as well as Nathan Opposition and myself. But so the interesting thing is, pretty much Nathan has never sang in New Jersey or New York. He does all his vocals in Cleveland. So it's really not like we're a producer. It's, you know, like we have a big name producer. We're kind of doing everything ourselves. And then, like, the Woodshed album was mixed in Ohio, and Thy Serpent Rise was mixed by J-Rod, and the next record will be mixed by J-Rod and ourselves as well. I mean, he sends us the final mixes, and then we may or may not tweak a few things, but he pretty much knows how to get our sound and what we're looking for.
Now, I'm going to jump back here just a little bit, and I apologize. You said you had quite a bit of music that's wrote for this album. Are there any songs that possibly, that if they don't make this album, we could see it down the road on another EP or another full-length possibly?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I've basically been kind of saying, I wrote the fourth album for Vessel of Light, and I'm already halfway done with the fifth album.
Oh, wow, wow.
We also have like a little side project. Jimmy, myself, and Ron Lipnicki, we have a little cover project called Cassius King, and we've done we did videos with Rob Dukes from Exodus. We did a Spirit, I forget, we did another Sabbath song. I'm blanking on the National Acrobat. We did with Rob Dukes, and we did a Motorhead cover with a kid named John Costco. So there's always extra music laying around, and we could release it as Cassius King or Dan Lorenzo and Cassius King, or we just wait for the next Vessel of Light record, or maybe Bobby Blitz will want to sing some more of my songs. You never know.
That's just the thing. I mean, you've got all these things going on in different bands and stuff. How do you just keep fresh and say, okay, I want to use this for this band, or this is going to be Vessel of Light? Is there some type of form or sound that just fits? How does that process out?
Yeah. Well, it's a good question, John. So basically, I write songs, and then I figure out, I offer them to Nathan first. I said, does this sound like Vessel of Light? And pretty much everything I write, he's like, yeah, I want to sing that. But then, there's only so much room on an album or so much of a budget. There's always a few songs left over. So that's when I think about, offering them to other people. But there was one song that was just a phenomenal song that myself and Jimmy and Ron recorded during the Thy Serpent Rise session, and Nathan just couldn't think of anything. So I was going to give it to another singer, and then we just kept sitting on it. And then Nathan's like, you know what? I think for the next record, I have a melody line that fits for this, So, I basically had the song sitting there just waiting for whoever is going to, Nathan always gets the first choice because Vessel of Light is what I'm most excited about right now. And then if there's anything that doesn't quite sound right for Vessel of Light, I could offer it to maybe, Jason McMaster from Texas. We've done some covers with him as well. So I know enough singers, that's for sure,
What has Nathan brought to Vessel of Light that may have been missing possibly? I mean, when he came into this band, tell me exactly what he has added to Vessel of Light for you personally.
Well, Nathan's in a band called Ancient Wisdom with his brother Michael, and they were the first band that ever opened up for Ghost on Ghost's first tour of America. So you got to check out Ancient Wisdom if you're not familiar with them already. Mm-hmm. But Nathan's a lot younger than me, and he likes a lot of bands I never heard of. Plus, he lives in Cleveland. He lives 7.5 hours away from me, so he just a little diversity. The fact that he's younger, he's not afraid to maybe be a little influenced by some of the bands that my songwriting influences were, AC/DC, Kiss, and old Aerosmith, which if you're a young person, that sounds so corny, but they were actually cool back in the 70s before they got famous and made too much money where they could no longer write cool songs. So, even though I tuned down and my music doesn't sound like I was influenced by those bands, Nathan brings something completely different because, we're different people. I go to church on Sundays when you used to be allowed to go to church, and Nathan's a Satanist. Nathan smokes a little bit of marijuana. I'm like really super straight, and he's a great kid. I mean, and he should be famous. He's incredibly talented, and I was, just totally flattered and honored when he said he wanted to write with me after I was sending him fan emails, about his band Ancient Wisdom. They have a song called The Opposition that I really feel like was one of the top 10 greatest songs of all time.
So that's pretty cool, man. You were a fan of his music, and now he's in the band and with you.
Totally.
That's awesome. See, that's what it's all about, man. I keep preaching that stuff just because, I'm this good at it, don't mean nothing. Oh, yeah.
Totally.
I don't know. I'll step off my little stool here. Get back down. Okay.
Get off that, John.
I'm sorry, Dan. Please forgive me.
That's all right.
What do you hope everyone takes away, or message you hope they hear while listening to any of Vessel of Light's music in general? Dan, what do you hope they get from it?
Well, I hope everybody checks out Vessel of Light, the single and the video, Meat and Bone. I hope you check out Thy Serpent Rise and then look into our back catalog, because all of us have been playing for a long time. Jimmy Shulman was in Hades with me. Ron Lipnicki, like I said, was in Overkill. And all of us have been doing a lot of different bands. I was in Nonfiction. I did solo albums. So we're kind of like just hoping that the new Vessel of Light music inspires people to look at our back catalog. That would be nice. But, we get some really nice letters where people think we're like the coolest thing out there. But, of course, we know we're never going to be worldwide famous, big, going on an arena tour. So just, know the fact that there's some great bands that you probably never heard of, and give them a shot, because sometimes, your favorite album of all time might be a band that nobody else in your town has ever heard of.
Yeah, but man, why not? Why not? Let's stop right there. Let's do this. Why not? Why cannot Vessel of Light be one of those bands that takes the world by storm? I mean, honestly, anybody can do it.
Because I'm 57. We don't have a major label funding behind us. I'm happily married, so I'm not going to tour forever. And, it's just the world has changed so much. The world likes brand new things with young kids, or maybe a band like Guns N' Roses that put out half a great album 40 years ago. That's what people, get excited by. They don't really like brand new bands, brand new music put out by people who are older than their parents maybe. And I get that and all. But, like I said, I'm 57, man. I'll fucking do anything side by side with a 27-year-old kid, whether it's playing basketball or writing songs or, whatever. I'll out-hustle them. So age to me is just a number. I don't really give a shit, but, some people do.
There you go, man. That's exactly right. It's just a number. And to me, if a band can play, a band can play. I don't care if they're 80 years old. I will still watch them and still go play their music as loud as I can.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that attitude. That's why you're the Bodfather, my man.
That's right. I'll give you that. I do that so horribly wrong. What can fans expect at a show from Vessel of Light once everything gets back to normalcy and we can get out to go watch some shows? What are they going to get when they come to see you all?
Well, we were supposed to play the Maryland Doom Fest in June, but that was pushed back to Halloween time, and who knows what will happen then. But basically, it's like a garage band. We strip down. I don't use a lot of effects. In fact, I don't use any effects. I plug right into my amplifier, and I'm hoping the riffs are memorable. And if nothing else, you're going to go home that night remembering Nathan's melody lines and my riffs, if nothing else.
What made you, Dan, want to become a musician? What was that spark for you, if you can recall, that said, yeah, I want to possibly do this or even try this?
Well, in 1977, I discovered a brand new band. I thought it was a brand new band called Kiss. And Kiss was just everything for me. I heard Rock and Roll Over, and I thought it was a greatest hits album. I was arguing with my buddy. I kept telling him, he played me Rock and Roll Over, and I said, I got to buy that greatest hits album. And he said, it's not a greatest hits album, it's just a regular Kiss album. And I was so pissed off at him because I thought he was mistaken, because I didn't understand how one band could have 10 perfect songs on an album. So about a few months later, I decided to start calling myself Dan from Hades. I knew I was going to start a band called Hades, but I first had to start playing guitar, so I waited till March of 1978, but Kiss was the impetus for everything.
You were in the band The Cursed with Overkill's Bobby Blitz. Would you like to have seen that band continue or even met your expectations at some point, possibly?
Yeah, for sure. I think by the time I finished, I was like, this Blitz, he doesn't want to tour with this, whatever. He's Overkill started like getting popular again, and thanks to large part of that was due to Ron Lipnicki, who I loaned to them for 9 years. But Blitz and I get along really well. We wrote together really well, but I feel like Nathan, this is even easier. Like, we don't even need to have rehearsals. We never have had. We've had one rehearsal since we met. It's incredibly easy. But yeah, I mean, I always wish, The Curse was a little more popular because we put out a really great record, but we didn't really do any shows. We did one show in New York City. So your expectations are basically based around how much can you really tour. I mean, I'm always thinking, is there a way to get popular without touring? But I've learned year after year that's pretty much impossible, and I'm too old to go on tour. So I'm just going to have to rely upon people like you to spread the word for me, John.
Oh, you got no problem with that, man. No problem whatsoever.
Thank you.
Since almost everyone is in quarantine and everything's opening back up just a little bit from the coronavirus, do you think concerts and festivals will have the same impact as before with attendance and sales? Or do you think this has hurt concerts and festivals in the long run, possibly?
Yeah, I think this has hurt the world in the long run. I mean, usually I'm an optimist, but I think if we could redo this whole thing, maybe we would have asked people with compromised immune systems and older people to stay indoors and isolate and let all of us younger people get it, and hopefully not more than 1% of us would die from it. But I feel like we made a big mistake and destroyed the economy, and probably for a very, very long time. And I don't think concerts or anything is going to be the way it used to be, and it's really, really sad because life was going really, really well for me and a lot of the American economy before this whole thing hit. It's very sad.
Oh yeah, I agree with you totally. And I had musicians on here all the time who talk about they just now are adapting to the digital age, and now here comes the coronavirus, who pretty much just says screw you and takes that away from you guys. And
it's really unbelievable, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not just musicians, but everybody. I mean, I'm a tech support guy, and I'm a senior tech / supervisor, so I have to go in. I can't work from home.
Right.
But our techs, they work from home. And, these other folks who are out here, especially me, I'm called an essential worker. These other ones are called essential workers, but like the ones who are doctors and nurses and things like that, and EMTs who are with these patients, I just don't understand why the government or anybody is not helping them more. Give them some type of pay raise, some huge something, to say thank you. Because those folks, they're getting it and they're dying as well. It's it's still, the whole thing is still surreal to me. I just still can't believe this is all happening. I wake up in the middle of the night to take a piss and I'm like, right, the coronavirus, everything's ruined. It's unbelievable, John. It's just mind blowing that this ever happened. I keep telling my friend who I work with, I said, man, it's like a sickness war that we're battling without bullets and things like that, like a civil war. But it's like that it's scary, very scary, very scary.
Really sad time, definitely.
Is there a country, Dan, that stands out or shocks you that Vessel of Light gets a lot of support from, or your music gets played in that country, maybe?
Well, Germany's always been good to me for whether it was Hades or Nonfiction or The Curse. The Germans have always been really supportive. I would say if I had to hand it to one country, it would be Germany, but also Italy, a little buzz in Italy going on. We were supposed to tour Italy, and of course that's not happening now too. But those are the two hot spots, I would say.
So once this new album comes out, and plus you have written a half one for a new one already, how far along are you going to wait to put that one out? Also, since all this, go back to the coronavirus, this quarantine stuff, how long are you going to wait possibly, or is that just going to be too much of oversaturated stuff from you guys?
Well, yeah, probably to a degree, but I tell you, that's the one good thing about the coronavirus is my bass player Jimmy Shulman's been home. Him and Nathan both have been put on hiatus with their jobs, furloughed temporarily. So they've had a lot more time to work on our fourth album. So if there's anything that came good out of all this thing is we weren't going to be able to release our next record till January or February. But the way things are going, we're so ahead of schedule with writing and recording, we might even be able to have it out by Halloween. So that's the one bright side of the whole coronavirus.
Folks, you want to get out and pick up Vessel of Light's stuff, everything that they got coming up, you want to pick it up right now. You also want to check out their cover of Black Sabbath's Wasp. You definitely want to check all this out. I'm not saying this because Dan's on here. I'm just saying this just because I'm a lover of music. Please support them, get their stuff, buy it. I don't care if you buy a shirt, wristband, headband, whatever. Help these folks out. And Dan, how can folks stay in touch with you guys, buy some merchandise, tour dates when this does get back to normalcy? How can they do that, good sir?
Well, I'm on Instagram, Dan Lorenzo CK, which stands for Cassius King. My website is danlorenzo.net. And the Vessel of Light, Thy Serpent Rise album is available on iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, all those places where you normally find music. So check out Vessel of Light, please.
And before I let you go, Dan, would you care to do a promo for the show?
Sure. Hey, this is Dan Lorenzo from the band Vessel of Light, and you're listening to my buddy John on BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and BODS Mayhem Hour podcast. Please check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link, YouTube link, and every link that we have on here that we're a part of. And believe me, we are all over the place. And soon, hopefully we're going to start doing some live Facebook streams with interviews and things like that. So we're going to try. We're definitely going to try. And please, folks, get out and support Vessel of Light. Pick up their new album that's going to come out here hopefully by the end of this year. And plus, check out their cover of Black Sabbath's Wasp. You will not be disappointed. Dan, I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck, my friend.
Thank you, John. I really do appreciate it, my man.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.